Oh, yeah.
Well, I can tell you in all honesty, I did not watch the AEW pay per view yesterday, but I understand a few of you did. Maybe one of you did.
I watched the whole thing. Other than 0 Hour, I watched the whole show.
Yeah, I watched the whole regular show and the boom match on 0 Hour.
Okay, I'll leave it to you guys. Anything interesting? Anything worthy of note? Was it a banger? Did it
Yeah,
slap?
I'd say so. I would give this like a really high rating. I thought the show was fantastic, actually. Like AEW always tends to do for me anyway on their pay per views. They just everyone shows up, everyone works hard, everyone really probably does a little too much, but
Yeah.
um, but they take no I guess take no prisoners for lack of a better saying. They really go all out and they bust their ass and they really risk it all on these shows, especially when you talk about the cage match with Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher. Um, Takeshita and Kenny Omega was a really, really, really fun match to watch. It went insanely longer than I thought it would. Like that probably took up like a good like Brundo. I don't know if you remember, probably like a half-hour match.
It felt like a half hour, yeah, but it
Yeah.
was all action, all good. I couldn't complain. The main event felt really long, but at that point, you've had the cage match, you had the Mariah and Tony
Yeah.
match, you had MJF and Kenny. You're just like, all right,
Lot of
you know,
blood, which is I guess
yeah,
par for the course with AEW. They tend to do that a lot with their
and none
shows.
from Moxley.
What's that?
Of all, none from Moxley.
Yeah,
All
that's
these different
true.
people bleeding, people even not in matches, but not a
And
drop from
very
Mox.
quick and very quick too. Like they didn't waste any time for some of these matches, like the Tony Storm Mariah. They bled immediately. The
Yeah,
first time that Kyle Fletcher got thrown into the cage, blood, or it was Ospreay.
it
One
was
of the two.
Osprey. Yeah,
It was
he was a
Ospreay. Yeah.
crimson mask instantly.
Yeah. So I
Yeah,
mean, and then there was also a lot of. I guess you can't really talk about a show all glowingly. You're gonna nitpick on some stuff.
yeah,
But like the Tony Storm Mariah May having like the broken like champagne bottle, I believe that's what it was, like all shattered glass on the ring.
yeah,
Then you
yeah.
have the tax in the Fletcher Osprey match, kind of the same type deal. You would think that there would be a little more communication, but I totally dug this show, Tony. HK, I don't know how much you caught of it, but to me, this show was fire. And even we can get to the critique of the main event with Christian Cage, but I love this show.
So I didn't watch the pay-per-view. I kept up with it on Twitter here and there as the night was going on and kind of grabbed results, as they came in. Obviously I was well asleep before the show ended. Something came to mind when you guys said, like, Brundo, you said that the Omega was it the Omega match that lasted about a half hour?
Yeah,
We think I don't know, but
Roughly,
it
yeah.
went long. Yeah,
It felt like a long match. Now I watched the Iron Man match, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels recently, because I watch that match pretty regularly. It
Nice.
never seems like an hour, and they do so much less in that match that I'm guessing than Omega and his partner did in that match. So is there something to be said there? Like Bruno, you said, like, oh, it felt like a half hour, and it's just nonstop action where you can watch the Bret and Shawn match and it doesn't feel like an hour, and they're doing.
it wasn't like a bad feel like a half hour.
Yeah,
It was a little longer, but it was action packed. It kept me engaged the entire time. The main event was the one that kind of went long, and if they had shaved like 10 minutes off of it, I feel like it would have been a much better match, especially considering it followed that cage match, and the crowd was just like deflated by that one. But
I could.
and
Wait,
when you go ahead.
HK, KGG, give me 1 second. I'll just give you the Omega Takeshita match was 28 minutes 30 seconds. Osprey Fletcher was 29 minutes, and your main event was 26:35. I'm sorry, KGG. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. And I just want to like make it clear that when people say like this match felt long, it doesn't. It kind of has that negative connotation, but that's not what I mean by any stretch of the imagination. Like none of these matches, even though you got like Tony just said, 3 half-hour matches, and none of it felt boring. None of it felt like I was dragging or the show was dragging, even though AEW shows do go really, really long.
Yeah.
None of it felt that way while I was watching the match. Granted, I watched it today at work, so that probably helped. But I loved the work in that Kenny Omega. Takeshita's a freaking stud, bro. Like, he is without a doubt a stud. And if they put the world title on him tomorrow, even though they just took a belt off him, if they put the world title on him tomorrow, I would not complain at all. I think that the stars of this show, you had Swerve. We're having a picture in our main event now. Swerve looks like he's going right there, even though Hangman Adam Page won the #1 contenders match, right? That was a #1
No,
contenders
that was
match.
Swerve and Ricochet was the
Swerve
#1
It
contenders
was the #1
match.
contenders match. Okay, so
Yeah.
then that's fine. Perfect. And then you had Christian do his deal. The main event scene is shaping up now. Listen, if Mox was going to win to help put Swerve over again, to me that's fine. Like, that makes all the sense in the world to me. The show, like I said before, top to bottom, was fantastic. You gotta hitch your wagon to Omega and Ospreay. Those are the faces of your company, and Swerve. If you're going to revamp this whole thing, have Cope have his feud again with Christian, and just like Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay, and Swerve Strickland fucking be the absolute mega top of your show.
You're getting rid of the pillars, KJG?
I mean, they are.
Or you got new pillars?
They seem to be
At this point. I mean,
Yeah,
one of the pillars is lost on ROH. The other one's falling off Mount Everest in a few months, and the other one, Jungle Boy, just disappeared.
If you don't get hit by
Crashed
another
his
bus.
ice cream truck somewhere.
Scott George chimes in. Tony Mariah was my favorite match. That should have been the main event. That's what I heard from a lot of
100%.
people.
Completely. I think that or the cage match should have been the main event. I think it, like Mariah and Tony, that was what a feud should end like. Like, they held nothing back and they just killed each other, and it felt like the end of a feud for sure.
Can I ask what are the stipulations of what was it called, a Hollywood ending, Matt? What the fuck
They said it was Hollywood ending, but then afterwards they said it was, no DQ, no count out, false count anywhere. So they said Hollywood ending, but they said afterwards, like,
they preface
here's the actual rules of the match.
I feel like more so it was just to like solidify that, listen, these two are not wrestling again for the foreseeable future. Like, so that's basically what the Hollywood ending kind of dictated or connotated or whatever you want to say.
It even came up on the Tron at the end, when she it said the end after the match. So
did they show her Heine when it's at the end? Because
she was laying on top of her. So yeah,
yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Do you think AEW would benefit trimming one or two of the main event matches off the card and maybe kind of moving those stories to the next pay-per-view and just put in some like letdown or come up matches, something kind of like in between, like in between, like the final two or the final three matches? Maybe they could use like a little, like, Mark Briscoe, Orange Cassidy, fucking Big Boom, just something in between to break it up a little bit.
The placement of the matches was kind of bizarre. Like, they could have easily inserted like the Outrunners versus the Hurt Syndicate in between one of those.
Yeah, just something a little more light, like
Brody King and Okada would have been a perfect spot in between.
Can I tell you a match that I had less interest in? There wasn't one match, and I don't think this year that I had less interest in than Brody King versus Okada. And I like Brody King and I like Okada.
Yeah. He's an LA guy, so I think that's why he was there.
Okay.
Yeah, he came up in LA. He was, he came out with the LA stuff on, so I could see why they wanted the hometown guy.
Handjob Kyle chimes in. Nice bloody Heine.
Oh my God.
Al Day says, KJG will introduce you one day. Never Big Boom. Asian Joe says they could have trimmed the tag title match and the Continental title match off the pay-per-view card. But that's the kind of thing. Like, you want a tag title match, but it's not necessary to have them. Like, I'm not saying go full bore like WWE does, where they're doing like four matches a pay-per-view,
right.
But maybe just trim like one or two, kind of like,
I think now that they have more pay-per-views, like previously when they had 5 a year, it felt like you had to get everybody on these pay-per-views. Now that they have, 9 or 10 pay-per-views a year, you can trim some of that.
Yeah. And especially this tag team title match, which just was literally thrown together, a week and a half ago? Maybe
2 weeks ago. Yeah.
2 weeks ago. So like you didn't need it. Like that's why WWE does is so good. Like they just had a paper. Now you can have a criticism or you could actually like this. Like Cody Rhodes had a big segment, right? The heel turn, all that stuff, but he didn't have a match. like that's your top guy, and he didn't have a match because the gimmick was the chambers. Like AEW could take a lesson from that, and you don't necessarily need everything on the pay-per-view. Like Brundo said, you have one every month. Do it next month. Make Collision feel more important. Put it on that. Make Dynamite feel more. And listen, AEW's been fucking banging. I've really enjoyed AEW lately, so they should keep that momentum going. And you could have the Outrunners versus Shelton and Bobby Lashley main event a Dynamite or a Collision, or Rampage isn't still there, is it? No.
Well, and I think, like, Tony, to your point, I think what you're saying is like throwing a popcorn match, essentially.
Yeah, just something where like to let people up, they get a little breather.
Yeah,
the next AEW pay-per-view is April 6th. So they've got, you could have trimmed one off there.
Yeah, you don't need to cram 15 matches in a pay-per-view in like another 4 weeks. You really don't.
Yeah.
Brundo, is the notes that you sent, is that the match order to your knowledge, to the best of your knowledge?
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so you went from Mercedes against Momo. then you had Swerve and Ricochet. Then you had, so you could have put like Brundo said, Okada and Brody King in between Tony Storm, Mariah May, and Takeshita and Kenny Omega, or in between Omega and Takeshita versus Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher, or between Kyle Fletcher, Will Ospreay, and Jon Moxley and Cope and Christian.
Kyle chimed in. He agrees taking 2 or 3 would have been perfect. He was exhausted by the time the Kenny match came on. Question from me. I didn't hear anybody make comments about the Mercedes Moné match. Was she still on that streak that she was when she wrestled Buttlander, or has the bloom fallen off the rose with this one?
It wasn't as good as the Buttlander match, but it certainly wasn't bad. And Momo was kicking the shit out of her.
So that's why it was good.
Well, yeah, that too.
It was the Momo show.
She caught her with a kick to the throat that literally, I was watching this at Matt's. Everybody screamed like, "Oh!" Like you thought she broke her windpipe or something like that.
So apparently they have a history of good matches, right? I don't think I've ever seen a match between them, but apparently they do have some New Japan Strong stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, it was either Strong or Stardom, one of those.
Right. So like my expectations for this match, like, were kind of like, I didn't know what to expect, but like based on what I've heard from other people that they did have good matches, that I was like, all right, this should be okay. To me, it took a little while to get off the ground, but I thought that it was a fun watch. So yeah, no, her streak to me continues of good pay-per-view matches.
I think too the fact that it was believable to me that Buttlander could have beaten her, but I don't think anybody believed that Momo was going to beat her.
Momo.
Slob on my knobby. I was going to ask you, Tony, when we were talking about throwing in a popcorn match. WWE kind of has done the opposite of that with their pay-per-views, like less matches, and instead of having a popcorn match, they show the build up and they show, you know what I mean? Like they'll have Do you think that it's better to have a popcorn match there, or a bigger build? This is why we're having the match. This is, they tell the story before the match happens. Do you have a preference on one or the other?
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think it's hard to do when you have Elimination Chamber, when you need that story to get to your main event of WrestleMania. Now that, when John Cena won the match, because you got to let that play out. You got to get to that point. It kind of makes sense to do it on a PLE. And it's weird now because AEW, are they going to be in the same situation as WWE is, where their pay-per-views are going to be for free on Max?
No.
Okay, so they're not in the same situation. So something like that, maybe you do want to have a little bit of a get up. I could take it either way. I understand why WWE does it, because there's so many stories going into these matches now. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've got 6 different stories coming together in the chamber. Right. And like every single one of them is plausible to go on to face Cody. So maybe you have to spend time explaining to people, who are tuning in.
This would actually be a great question for our guest coming up at 7:30, Jimmy Jacobs. He's probably been in a bunch of those meetings production wise, and whether or not let me up matches are essential or not, or
even his preference.
Yeah, or his preference, exactly. Yeah.
No, so, I think that it's I don't know. At times, I think it's kind of a miss not to have a popcorn match because that's a performer that gets to perform on a stage and maybe do something that does turn some heads or gain some more traction or garner more fans, whatever it is. So from that standpoint, I kind of like the thought of having a popcorn match every now and again.
Right.
But I can I think you can definitely make the argument either way.
But like are you gonna put like Leo Rush versus like Max Caster in that
No,
on a
bra
pay-per-view?
panty matches. AEW needs a couple bra panty matches.
Yes, they do.
Maybe a little like a mimosa match where you start in the mimosa and you try to get out.
Like you're swimming. You're swimming.
Yeah.
At it.
Oh, like a what they used to do, like the mud wrestling matches or the pudding matches, something like that. Bra and panties,
Always a winner.
evening gown matches. I mean,
Definitely a winner.
if they want to add more titles, maybe they should do that with the Ring of Honor women's title, or just have like a B&P title.
A B&P championship.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Sign me up.
Fucking B&P, and you can put the B&P right on the belt, baby. Fuck yeah.
I'm gonna have to
One
start-
side plate's a brassiere, one side plate's a nice set of panties.
You know what I want is B&P Pro. That's what
Bro. Instead of a leather belt, it's like all lacy and frilly and shit. It looks like Puerto Rico's costume. Fuck, man, I'm down for that.
Let's start what is it? Kickstarter? B&P Pro.
Fuck yeah. Forget Brian Knobs' foot, people. Support this shit.
What's Gorgeous George up to? You need
Fucking A, Mrs. Frankenstein. Fuck
She's
yeah,
she's
dude.
gonna be the commissioner.
Oh my god. It'd be so great having her make the matches. I wonder what the WW girls are up to these days. I'm sure they all need a little bit of work.
I'll tell you this, Tony. A blowjob's still a job, my friend.
Jesus Christ, dude.
Yikes.
Writing that one down.
Oh my god. Hey, maybe you know what? It's still a job. That's a contender.
Still a yob.
Still a job.
Still a knob.
Oh my god.
Back here if you Momo.
And SJ's in the chat. She's looking forward to Jimmy Jacobs. Sorry, you got to deal with this before we get to that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you know the game by this point.
Yeah.
Fucking A, dude. B&P. Shit.
No problem there.
Shit. I bet you could get the other. What Bella wasn't at the Rumble? Bree? I'm sure Bree's looking for work.
Bree and P?
Oh my god, Bree and Paige, your fucking finals for the first championship.
Fucking Tropical just roasted me so hard. He said, so HK will always be employable.
It's called tenure.
Well played, Tropical. I got a 401. Never mind.
401J?
Joke's on him.
There it is, Tony.
What, Tony, I missed it. What'd you say?
I said joke's on him. That old gag. Hey, do we want to put up our picks and stats? Oh Jesus Christ, he's fucking lost. You know what? Really does have a hard job keeping the show moving.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the hardest job of all. Am I right, HK?
You're right.
Hey-oh! Holy shit. Well, I think fortunately or unfortunately, the Wizards have stagnated when it came to picks, as we all went 10-2 for the pay-per-view. Can anybody tell me exactly what happened with the Jericho match?
I
take it he didn't lose to gravity?
No, they did. The match didn't even happen. They attacked Gravity. They brought him into the ring. They kicked the shit out of him. And I guess they brought his mom into the ring and unmasked him, and everybody got sad, and nobody cares because it's freaking Gravity. Like, who cares? The only
They
gravity
unmasked
that
him?
matters to Jericho is his fucking tits.
Fucking
Anyway.
gravity's been doing a number on them fucking puppies.
Oh my goodness, yeah. He's already lost to Gravity.
Oh, wait, did they show his face?
No, they covered it up quickly. And his mom cried and Aubrey cried, and I would have cried if I watched it too.
They should have put blinders on Aubrey. She never would have saw his face.
Nay.
So, like I said, everybody went 10-2. Standings have not changed. Matt, myself, Brundo, we all sit on top at 21-5. Oh yeah, at 21-5. KJG not far behind at 19-7. Handsome Kevin keeping that rear spot warm. Oh yeah, at 18-8.
Taking a knee in the rear.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Man, that was the worst part. Like I find it 10-2. I felt pretty good about it. There's only one match I went back and forth on, and that was the Page and MJF match. And I go 10-2, and all you other assholes also go 10-2.
A lot of talk about assholes tonight, huh?
Well, why not?
Yeah. It's the shit.
Well,
what are you gonna do?
Well, Jesus. Did Matt made a graphic or something of our picks too, didn't he? I don't know. He was doing production.
Oh, let's see
I
here.
thought he made a picture of. Oh yeah, there it is. Hey, who's that handsome fella in the middle? Look at that guy. Got a suit on and everything.
Oh yeah, that's at a castle.
All right. Well, for those of you who are not watching, it's pretty much what I exactly said. And for those of you watching, you get to look at our ugly mugs again in a different context. All right, get rid of that shit.
Just trying to figure out where the fuck I was.
I thought you were in Minnesota.
I have no idea. I don't recognize that picture at all.
Hey, Jimmy Jacobs is joining us in a few minutes. Anybody got an Liddy? Oh, you know what we could do if you give me a second. I don't know why my camera off. That didn't make sense because I'm trying to do a present. We might as well knock this out.